that's not my place, to answer, to even be able to give the answer to that. I feel like it's not in my control.
What they supposed to do on the field and off the field to be better than it was the day before, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think it just knowing the plays. He's just a lot more confident, being able to have them reps during OTAs, during mini camp. Now during camp, it just come natural to him, so he's a lot more confident out there for sure.
We also had Myles, Garrett, and Shedeur Sanders seen joking.
I would say just have a deeper level of understanding, because I know whenever I get my opportunity, I gotta maximize it. So that's something you have to change in the mentality standpoint, and the mental standpoint is okay. I just gotta think about what I could do to get better, even if I'm not getting reps in.
Coordinator sitting there watching in his all white, watching Shedeur Sanders, man, completely dominate. That's all he can do, though, is just take advantage of the opportunities that you are.
What if I told you that while NFL executives are playing political games with draft picks, the players themselves are staging a quiet rebellion that could expose the biggest talent evaluation scandal in recent history? Myles Garrett, one of the NFL's most feared pass rushers, is openly bonding with a fifth-round rookie while ignoring the team's third-round investment. Judy is going on podcasts calling this same rookie better than established starters. And Lewis Riddick just dropped a nuclear bomb explaining why front offices are terrified of what's happening. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about a systematic cover-up that's about to be blown wide open by the very players it's trying to control. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the Cleveland Browns are facing the most dangerous internal uprising in franchise history. The NFL has always been a league where politics and performance collide, but what's happening in Cleveland right now is unlike anything we've seen before. While the front office desperately tries to justify their draft strategy, the locker room is sending a completely different message. Veterans are choosing sides, and they're not picking the guy the executives want them to. Shedeur Sanders, drafted in the 5th round, isn't just outperforming Gabriel, their 3rd-round pick. He's building an alliance with the team's biggest stars that threatens to expose decades of organizational dysfunction. When Myles Garrett, a player who could demand a trade tomorrow and have 30 teams calling, chooses to spend extra time with a rookie quarterback, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. When Judy goes on national platforms to praise that same rookie while subtly criticizing the coaching staff's handling of other players, that's not just opinion. That's revolution. And when Lewis Riddick, with 11 years of front office experience, calls out the psychological manipulation happening behind closed doors, that's not analysis. That's an exposé. I'm going to show you how this player-led uprising is about to force the Browns into the most uncomfortable decision in franchise history and why the outcome could change how the entire NFL evaluates talent forever. In the NFL, there's an unwritten rule that superstars don't waste time on players who won't help them win. So when Myles Garrett, a player who could single-handedly change the outcome of games, starts spending extra time with a 5th-round rookie quarterback, every executive in that building should be paying attention. But instead of celebrating this organic chemistry, the Browns front office is probably terrified of what it represents. The footage of Garrett and Shedeur Sanders working together during training camp isn't just heartwarming, it's revolutionary. Here's a defensive player who has no obligation to help develop quarterbacks, especially not one who isn't even guaranteed to make the roster, choosing to invest his valuable time and energy into building chemistry with Shedeur. They're not just running drills together, they're laughing, joking, and developing the kind of relationship that can't be manufactured or mandated by coaching staff. This matters because Garrett has worked with every quarterback who's come through Cleveland during his tenure. He's seen the Baker Mayfield experiment, the Deshaun Watson investment, and countless other attempts to solve the franchise's quarterback problem. He knows what NFL-caliber quarterback play looks like, and more importantly, he knows what it feels like to play alongside someone who can actually lead a team to victories. When a player of Garrett's caliber chooses to align himself with Shedeur over Gabriel, he's making a statement that goes far beyond personal preference. He's essentially saying, this is the guy who gives us the best chance to win, and he's willing to put his reputation behind that assessment. Defensive players, especially pass rushers, have a unique perspective on quarterback evaluation because they spend their careers trying to disrupt and pressure these players. Garrett has faced the best quarterbacks in the league, and if he sees something special in Shedeur, that carries more weight than any scouting report. But there's another layer to this relationship that makes it even more significant. Garrett isn't just working with Shedeur during mandatory team activities, he's seeking him out during individual workout time, creating opportunities for extra development that the coaching staff isn't providing. This suggests that Garrett recognizes the political dynamics at play and is taking it upon himself to ensure Shedeur gets the support he needs to succeed. The psychological impact of this alliance extends throughout the entire roster. When other players see the team's biggest star investing in Shedeur's development, it sends a clear message about who they should be rallying behind. It creates a ripple effect where more veterans start paying attention to the rookie quarterback, offering advice, and building the kind of team chemistry that can't be coached. From the front office perspective, this has to be their worst nightmare. They've invested significant draft capital in Gabriel, but their own players are essentially voting with their feet by gravitating toward Shedeur. It's a public rejection of their evaluation process that becomes harder to ignore with each passing day. The Garrett factor isn't just about one player's opinion, it's about authentic leadership recognizing authentic talent, regardless of draft position or organizational politics. When Judy decided to go on O's show and publicly praise Shedeur Sanders while offering subtle criticism of Gabriel's development, he wasn't just sharing his opinion, he was dropping a bombshell that exposed the gap between what players see and what organizations want to believe. Judy's comments represent something far more dangerous to the Browns' narrative than any statistical analysis or expert opinion, the unfiltered truth from a veteran who works with these quarterbacks every single day. Shedeur is better than most in ways that will leave you stunned, Judy declared, and then he went even further, comparing Shedeur favorably to established NFL starters like Donnell Ward when it comes to controlling game tempo. This isn't the kind of praise you give to a fifth-round pick unless you're seeing something truly exceptional. Judy has played with multiple NFL quarterbacks throughout his career, from college at Alabama to his professional stops, and he understands what separates good quarterbacks from great ones. But the most telling part of Judy's comments wasn't what he said about Shedeur, it was his subtle advice to Gabriel about working on his off-field presence. In NFL speak, that's a diplomatic way of saying Gabriel isn't commanding the respect and leadership that the position requires. When a veteran receiver has to publicly suggest that a quarterback needs to improve his leadership qualities, that's a devastating indictment of that player's readiness for the starting role. The timing of these comments is particularly significant. Judy didn't make these statements in a private team meeting or casual conversation. He chose a public platform with a wide audience to make his assessment known. That's a calculated decision by a veteran who understands the power of media narratives and wants to influence the conversation around the quarterback competition. What makes Judy's endorsement even more powerful is his credibility as an evaluator of quarterback talent. As a receiver, he depends entirely on quarterback play for his own success. His statistics, his contract value, and his career trajectory are all directly tied to how well his quarterback performs. When he publicly backs Shedeur over Gabriel, he's essentially betting his own professional future on that assessment. The ripple effects of Judy's comments extend far beyond just quarterback evaluation. Other receivers on the roster are now hearing from one of their veteran leaders that Shedeur is the superior talent. This creates a dynamic where the receiving core starts building chemistry and developing timing with the quarterback they believe gives them the best chance for individual and team success. From an organizational standpoint, Judy's public endorsement creates a nightmare scenario for the Browns front office. They can't dismiss his comments as uninformed opinion because he works with these players daily. They can't claim he doesn't understand the system because he's been in the league for years. And they can't ignore the influence his words have on other players and the media narrative surrounding the team. Judy's declaration represents the moment when the player rebellion moved from private conversations to public statements, making it impossible for the organization to control the narrative around their quarterback situation. When Lewis Riddick decided to pull back the curtain on NFL front office psychology, he didn't just analyze the Browns' quarterback situation. He performed a complete autopsy on organizational dysfunction that should terrify every fan who's watched their team make inexplicable personnel decisions. With 11 years of front office experience, Riddick understands the dirty politics that most fans never see, and his comments about Cleveland revealed a level of systematic manipulation that goes far beyond football. Do you really think they want to see the fifth-round guy beat out the third-round guy? Riddick asked, and then answered his own question with brutal honesty. Hell no. They don't want that to happen because it makes them look bad. This wasn't just commentary. This was an insider revealing the psychological warfare that happens in NFL front offices every single day. Riddick exposed the fundamental flaw in how organizations evaluate talent. They become more invested in protecting their previous decisions than making the right current decisions. The Browns spent a third-round pick on Gabriel, which means they have a psychological and financial investment in seeing that pick succeed. When Shedeur Sanders, a fifth-round selection, starts outperforming Gabriel, it doesn't just threaten Gabriel's roster spot, it threatens the credibility of everyone who made that draft decision. There's so many biases that they're going to have to work through, Riddick explained, highlighting how draft position creates artificial hierarchies that have nothing to do with actual performance. The front office invested more draft capital in Gabriel, so they have a psychological need to see that investment pay off, regardless of what's happening on the field. This creates a system where the player who costs more gets more opportunities, better supporting cast, and longer leash to prove himself. But Riddick's analysis went even deeper into the manipulation tactics. He pointed out that having 4 quarterbacks on the roster creates the perfect setup for sabotage disguised as competition. You don't have a whole lot of reps to go around, he noted, which means the front office can control the narrative by controlling practice time. They can give Gabriel more opportunities with better players, then point to his higher volume of reps as justification for starting him over Shedeur. The most chilling part of Riddick's expose was his historical context. He mentioned Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott, both mid-round picks who won starting jobs as rookies by clearly outplaying the competition. For a mid-round pick to win a starting job, you have to leave no doubt, he explained. Clearly outplay the competition. The implication was clear. Even when later round picks are obviously better, organizations will find ways to justify starting their higher investments unless the performance gap becomes impossible to ignore. Riddick's comments represent more than just analysis. They're a whistleblower's account of how NFL organizations systematically sabotage their own success to protect executive egos. When he says the Browns don't want Shedeur to succeed because it makes them look bad, he's revealing a truth that explains decades of organizational dysfunction across the league. This isn't just about Cleveland, it's about a systemic problem that affects every team in the NFL. While the Browns front office tries to control the narrative through rep distribution and media management, the statistical evidence is building a case so overwhelming that even the most biased observer can't ignore it. The numbers from training camp don't just favor Shedeur Sanders, they expose the organizational manipulation that Lewis Riddick warned about and validate the player endorsements from Myles, Garrett, and Judy. On day 4 of training camp, while Gabriel worked with the first-team offense and premium supporting cast, he managed just 8 completions out of 15 attempts for a barely above 50% completion rate with 1 touchdown. These are the numbers you'd expect from a quarterback who's struggling to adjust to NFL speed and complexity, not someone who's supposed to be ready for a starting role. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, working with second-string receivers and a makeshift offensive line, completed 8 out of 11 passes for a 73% completion rate with 3 touchdowns, all in red zone situations where precision and decision-making matter most. But it's not just the raw numbers that tell the story. It's the context that makes them devastating to the Browns' preferred narrative. Gabriel's struggles become even more pronounced when you consider the advantages he's been given. He's working with the first-team offensive line, which means better protection and more time to make decisions. He's throwing to the top receivers, who run more precise routes and make fewer mistakes. He's getting the majority of practice reps, which should translate to better timing and chemistry with his targets. Despite all these advantages, he's completing barely half his passes and finding the end zone just once. Shedeur's excellence becomes even more impressive when you consider the obstacles he's facing. The second-string offensive line means more pressure and less time to throw. The practice squad receivers mean less precise routes and more difficult catches. The limited reps mean less opportunity to develop timing and chemistry. Yet he's completing nearly 3/4 of his passes and finding the end zone 3 times in the same practice session. The comparison extends beyond just completion percentage and touchdowns. When you watch the film, Shedeur's ball placement is consistently superior. His first touchdown pass to Luke Floriero wasn't just accurate, it was perfectly placed, arriving at the exact moment the receiver made his break, in the only spot where it could be caught safely. Gabriel's completions often require receivers to make difficult adjustments or spectacular catches to bring in the ball. The red zone performance is particularly telling because it represents the highest pressure situations where quarterbacks must make quick decisions under duress. Shedeur's 3 red zone touchdowns demonstrate not just accuracy, but poise, decision-making, and the ability to perform when the stakes are highest. This is exactly the kind of clutch performance that separates franchise quarterbacks from career backups. Even more damaging to the Browns' narrative is the performance of the veteran quarterbacks. Joe Flacco, with over a decade of NFL experience, managed just 4 completions out of 8 attempts with 0 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, who has actual NFL starting experience, went 6 for 10 with 2 scores. When a 5th-round rookie is outperforming established NFL veterans, it's impossible to dismiss his success as a fluke or product of weak competition. Behind the scenes of this brewing rebellion, the Cleveland Browns coaching staff finds themselves in the most precarious position imaginable. They can see the truth unfolding before their eyes, but they're trapped by organizational politics that prevent them from acting on what they know. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and Tommy Rhea are watching a potential franchise quarterback emerge while being forced to pretend that draft position matters more than performance. The evidence of their internal conflict is everywhere if you know where to look. Multiple sources report that Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry have been spotted closely observing Shedeur during his practice sessions, even when he's working with the second team on a separate field. This isn't casual interest, this is evaluation with intent, the kind of attention you only give to players who are forcing you to reconsider your preconceptions. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rhea has been particularly attentive to Shedeur's development, taking detailed notes during his reps and discussing his performance with other coaches. The footage shows Rhea watching intently from the sidelines, his body language suggesting someone who's witnessing something unexpected and significant. This level of scrutiny isn't typically given to 5th-round picks unless they're showing something that demands attention. But the coaching staff's dilemma goes far deeper than just player evaluation. They're caught between their professional obligation to put the best players on the field and their organizational pressure to validate the front office's draft decisions. NFL coaches are hired and fired based on their relationships with management as much as their win-loss records, so openly advocating for Shedeur over Gabriel could create friction that threatens their job security. The solution appears to be gradual elevation disguised as normal development. Instead of making dramatic statements about Shedeur's superiority, they're slowly increasing his responsibilities and opportunities. More reps in crucial situations, more work with better players, more chances to show what he can do against top competition. This approach allows them to build a case for Shedeur while maintaining plausible deniability about their intentions. Watch Stefanski's reaction during Shedeur's touchdown passes, and you'll see the unmistakable look of satisfaction, almost as if he's thinking, "I knew this kid had it." It's the same expression coaches get when they discover a hidden gem that could change their fortunes, but it's tempered by the knowledge that they can't act on that discovery without political consequences. The preseason games will represent the ultimate test of this dynamic. When the lights are brightest and the stakes are highest, Will the coaching staff have the courage to play their best quarterback, regardless of draft position? Or will they cave to front office pressure and stick with the safer choice that protects organizational egos? The coaching staff knows that their careers depend on winning games, not validating draft picks. But they also understand that openly defying the front office's preferred narrative could cost them their jobs before they ever get the chance to prove their point. It's a calculated risk that requires perfect timing and undeniable evidence. What makes their position even more complicated is that they're not just evaluating individual talent, they're witnessing the organic team chemistry that's developing around Shedeur. When Myles Garrett chooses to work extra with the rookie quarterback, when Jeudy publicly endorses his abilities, when other veterans start gravitating toward him during practice, the coaching staff sees something that can't be manufactured or coached: authentic leadership. The internal tension is becoming impossible to hide. Sources close to the team report heated discussions in coaching meetings about rep distribution and development plans. Some coaches are reportedly pushing for more opportunities for Shedeur, while others are cautioning about the political ramifications of appearing to favor the fifth-round pick over the third-round investment. This coaching staff dilemma represents a microcosm of everything wrong with modern NFL decision-making, where politics often trumps performance and organizational ego matters more than championship aspirations. What we're witnessing in Cleveland isn't just a quarterback competition, it's a full-scale rebellion that's about to expose the most toxic aspects of NFL organizational culture. While executives play political games with draft positions, the players themselves are staging a quiet revolution that could change everything. Myles Garrett's alliance with Shedeur Sanders isn't just about football, it's about a superstar recognizing authentic talent and refusing to let politics suppress it. Judy's public endorsement isn't just opinion, it's a veteran receiver betting his own credibility on what he sees every day in practice. Lewis Riddick's explosive analysis isn't just commentary, it's an insider's expose of the psychological manipulation that destroys franchises. The statistical evidence is overwhelming: 73% completion rate versus barely 50%, 3 touchdowns versus 1, clutch performance versus struggling with basics. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The real story is about players choosing sides based on what they see, not what they're told to believe. The coaching staff finds themselves caught in the middle, watching a franchise quarterback emerge while being pressured to ignore the evidence. They know that Shedeur gives them the best chance to win, but they also know that admitting it could cost them their jobs. This rebellion is bigger than just Cleveland. It represents a fundamental challenge to how the NFL evaluates talent, makes decisions, and prioritizes politics over performance. When players start publicly rejecting their organization's preferred narrative, it forces everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about systematic dysfunction. The preseason games will be the moment of truth. When millions of fans see this disparity for themselves, when the performance gap becomes undeniable on national television, the Browns will face a choice that defines their franchise: continue protecting their egos or finally embrace their future. The player rebellion is real. The evidence is overwhelming, and the cover-up is crumbling. What do you think happens when this story explodes into the mainstream and every NFL fan sees what we're seeing right now? Will the Browns finally put their best quarterback on the field, or will they choose organizational politics over championship dreams? Drop your predictions in the comments. Do you think the player uprising forces management's hand, or does front office dysfunction win out? And if you want to stay ahead of this developing story, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because this rebellion is just getting started. The future of Cleveland football hangs in the balance, and the players have already chosen their side. The question is whether the organization will be brave enough to follow their lead, or if they'll go down in history as the franchise that let politics destroy their championship window. This isn't just about football anymore, it's about truth versus power, and the players are fighting for truth.